Hello, everyone, and welcome to Optimus Fantasy Football. We are here on this fine Friday to give you the best DFS plays for this Week 7 NFL slate. I am Nate Polvogt, joined by the one and only moneymaker, Mr. Mike Reedy. Mike, how are we doing heading into this wonderful Week 7 slate?
Good. I have a cough, so if I start coughing, I'll probably go on mute. Drinking some tea, but other than that, good. I think this is a really good slate, by the way. Some really good plays, a lot of high price plays, but some good low price ones too as we get into this. I'm looking forward to this week, by the way, in fantasy, more than I have any other week so far this season. So
it should be a good week. We've got some really good matchups on the slate, Mike. We've got a lot of injuries to navigate around as well. Just before recording, we find out that Puka Nacua is out for Week 7. We also find out Deebo Samuel is unlikely to play, as is Ricky Pearsall and Brock Purdy. So a lot going on to unpack here. Let's get right into it, Mike, with the quarterbacks on this Week 7 DFS slate. We'll start with Jayden Daniels of the Washington Commanders playing the Dallas Cowboys this weekend. $6,900 on DraftKings, $8,700 on FanDuel. Mike, this is a division rivalry. Jayden Daniels needs a blow-up game. The Cowboys' defense is atrocious. The trend continues. We're going to keep targeting him. Jayden Daniels is a smash play for me this week, and it appears he is for you too.
Oh, yeah. Cowboys give up the most fantasy points to opposing teams' defenses, quarterbacks, excuse me. So clearly, we every week tend to have whoever's playing the Cowboys. It's kind of a no-brainer. Even Bryce Young passed for 3 touchdowns against them, right? So Jayden Daniels is probably going to top that. Even if Deebo and Terry McLaurin don't go, I have the backup there, right? Like that I like a lot this week, and his price is right too for a stack. I really like him. He's a stud in a great matchup. It couldn't be better time to pay up for Jayden Daniels, $6,900 on DraftKings, $8,700 on FanDuel. I'm playing him. That's who I'm playing. You're mute. I can't hear you.
253. Okay. I muted. Whoops.
Heard.
Okay. Yeah, Mike, I really love Jayden Daniels this weekend as well. I'm heavily invested in him in fantasy, and I am also going to be very heavily invested in him in DFS. Next quarterback on this slate we're going to talk about here, Mike, Caleb Williams, Chicago Bears up against the Saints. $5,800 on DraftKings, $7,900 on FanDuel. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I've talked about it a few times this season. Caleb Williams is developing into an elite quarterback. This is a really good matchup against a weak Saints defense this weekend. He is a fantastic play for Week 7.
He's developing into what first pick quarterbacks are supposed to develop into, right? And this is a great matchup against the Saints. So you can look for, I think, 250 yards, multiple touchdowns this week. People are knocking him, saying the 10 to 12 game scripted plays at the beginning of the game, and then he's not as good afterwards. If he has a touchdown or two in those 10 to 12 game scripted plays, I don't care. It's a great matchup. I really like him. He's priced much more affordably than Jayden Daniels if you want to go a little cheaper with a guy who has serious upside and a great matchup. 5,800 DraftKings, 7,900 FanDuel. I like Caleb Williams a lot, especially in really good matchups, right? Like he delivers in the good matchup every time.
Yes, he does. Caleb Williams has just been good. And I think this is a great play. Again, it's just a great defensive matchup. The next one we're going to talk about, Mike, Dak Prescott up against the Washington Commanders, the other side of this Jayden Daniels matchup. $6,500 on DraftKings, $8,300 on FanDuel. I love this play. Dak Prescott has been fantastic this season. This Cowboys team just seems to have a lot working, right? And then we could be getting CeeDee Lamb back this week as well.
Oh, yeah. And 55-point over-under highest on the slate, by the way, as well, right? So Vegas expects a shootout. We expect a shootout. Dak has been slinging it like no tomorrow. I really like this. The Commanders also give up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing teams' quarterbacks, so it's a great matchup going both ways. It should look like a video game. That's what we really want to see with this one, and I think we're going to, right? Like I really like this matchup both ways. He's priced up there, but not too bad, right? 6,500 DraftKings, 8,300 FanDuel. I like Dak. I have so much Dak in redraft, by the way. It's not funny.
I'm not as exposed to him in redraft. I wish I was more exposed. I didn't see this offense playing out this way. I thought they were going to be much worse. But to be fair, they have a running game that I don't think anyone really expected. We were all pretty low on Javonte Williams heading into the season. Another player, the next one up here, Mike, Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs up against the Raiders, 77,000 on DraftKings, $8,000 on FanDuel. Another guy we were low on coming into this season, but he's the overall QB1 in fantasy right now, Mike.
When you say we, you mean the fantasy community, not we as in the two of us, because I'm super high on him. I was all off season because the price was right, ADP wise, drafting, right? So I was high on him. A top 10 finish always is expected from him, and he really wasn't being drafted in redraft like a top 10 guy. But again, good matchup, slinging it. Rashee Rice is supposed to be back. He's priced kind of high, 7,000 on DraftKings, 8,000 on FanDuel. I'm probably not playing him in DFS. But I'm going to brag. I have a super flex league where I have Dak, Mahomes, and Drake Maye as my three quarterbacks. And I'm very pleased with that team.
Yeah, you can't go wrong no matter who you start any given week at quarterback in that league. I'm impressed. Yeah, I wasn't sure what this offense was going to be in Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes just looked like he was trending down. I was low on him. I was wrong. He's turned into some mobile quarterback. He's running the ball a ton.
Well, nobody
has
else
to, though. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on to the next one. You just mentioned him, Drake Maye of the New England Patriots up against the Tennessee Titans weak defense, 6,300 on DraftKings, $8,200 on FanDuel, Mike. I really like this one. I like Drake Maye, and I don't think we're talking enough about how good Drake Maye has been this season.
What's funny about this is it's technically not a good matchup for quarterbacks because people run the ball a lot on the Titans. They're a run funnel defense, right? You get up on them and you just run and run and run. Well, Drake Maye runs with the football a lot, which the guys, how many 20-point games in a row? I don't know if I can count them anymore. This season, he's just racking them up and racking them up. As a Patriots fan, I'm very happy about this, by the way. But I think he's someone because the matchup says not so good, people might be off of, right? So a little bit more of a contrarian play, unless you're playing like a cash league. I am with all Boston guys. They play him every week. But Drake Maye's going to deliver again. He just seems to deliver every week.
Well, and I want to point out, too, you brought up the rushing upside. Tennessee is the third worst defense against running backs. And Drake Maye operates as a running back in this offense at times because it's Rhamonder Stephenson and Trevion Henderson, two guys who are hard to trust with the ball. So I really love this play, Mike. Now let's move on to the next one. Spencer Rattler of the New Orleans Saints. He is up against the Chicago Bears this weekend. $4,800 on DraftKings, Mike. He is $6,600 on FanDuel. Like, Spencer Rattler's not sexy. He's not exciting. He's on a boring team, but he's been producing in fantasy.
And it's a great matchup, right? So, and he's going to have to throw to stay in this game. Their running game hasn't been very good either. So I expect him to have to throw to stay in this game. It's the cheap play, right? Maybe I'll play him in a tournament. If you're really desperate, I think he's a good cheap play, especially if you want to pay up at running back, because there's a lot of good running backs to pay up for this. He gives you somebody 15 to 20 points. He should be able to hit that. He's been very, I don't want to say good, but solid all season. Much better than I expected him to be. I thought he was going to be atrocious but he's been pretty solid.
Oh, I thought he was going to be atrocious too, but he has been solid. And the Bears are giving up the sixth most fantasy points to quarterbacks. Do I expect Spencer Rattler to get 20 points this weekend against the Bears? Probably not. The weather's going to be awful. We're looking at rain, snow mix, possibly 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts at kickoff. But I think that also plays well for Rattler because he is a little bit mobile and he's going to be forced to move a little bit more in this game. And we'll probably get some of that rushing upside for him. So I don't hate this at all, Mike. Again, it's not sexy, but it allows you to pay up at other places, and you're going to get a good, solid floor of points out of him this week.
One of my friends calls those Mike Reedy plays. where some guy everybody hates, I plug him in and he gets me 18 points and I win.
Yeah. Well, look, that's how we win at this. It's not always starting all the studs. Sometimes you got to find that guy that's going to get you enough points to justify rostering him, and then you can pay up other places. But speaking of paying up other places, Mike, let's move on to the running back position. And the first one here, Quinton Judkins of the Cleveland Browns. My God. Hold on, we're going to start this. All right, Mike. Now, I think let's move on to the running back position here. Speaking of paying up, we're going to start with Quinton Judkins of the Cleveland Browns up against the Miami Dolphins. $6,000 on DraftKings, $7,400 on FanDuel. In what's supposed to also be a very, very bad weather game, Mike, this could be a phenomenal play. This is a team with Dylan Gabriel at quarterback, needs to keep the ball on the ground. Bill Yates yesterday on Fantasy Focus joked that the over-under on rushing yards for Judkins should be set at 280 for this weekend. So I love this play.
The Miami Dolphins defense was just destroyed by, hear me out, Rico Dowdle and Kamani Vidal the past 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So Judkins is at least as talented as Dowdle, right? Judkins is a really good running back. Yep. I think we're looking at an easy 100 yards here. I'm playing him just about everywhere. Matchups, right? They're going to run the ball. They don't really have much to throw it to other than like Fannin. So I like it. I think this is a great play this week. He'll probably be chalky though, but good play.
It probably is chalky, but sometimes I like to play those chalky plays just to keep up with everyone else, then get weird in other spots. I think Judkins is a place to stay chalky a little bit this weekend. The next one up, I don't think this is going to be chalky at all, Mike. Jordan Mason of the Minnesota Vikings up against the Philadelphia Eagles. $6,200 on DraftKings, $6,900 on FanDuel. I'm not the biggest Jordan Mason fan at all, but I do like this play. The Eagles are the 8th worst team against running backs, and Mason should see enough volume to put up a decent amount of points this weekend.
They're also run funnel defense, right? So they funnel you to the run. People don't realize that because they're a good defense. And their defense is probably a good play this week, by the way, as well. I don't think we're talking about them, but Mason will probably punch one in because they've given up 3 touchdowns in the past 3 weeks to running backs. So, they're just very consistent. He's a solid play. He's middle of the road, pricey. You put him in there, you're probably looking at a good 15 points, I think, this week. Again, I never view him as sexy. We recommended him, 2 weeks ago? He produced then. Last week, we didn't recommend him. I don't think he was very good last week. So we've been pretty much figuring out what this guy's going to do and when.
Yep. Well, he was on bye last week. It took me a minute I was running through my head, but yeah.
That explains why he didn't produce.
Exactly. It was a good thing we didn't recommend him. 0 touches. I think the floor with Mason is safe. I think you've got a double-digit floor with him this week. And again, pay down so you can pay up other places. Speaking of paying up other places, the second most expensive running back on our slate this week, Mike, Josh Jacobs of the Green Bay Packers up against the Arizona Cardinals defense that literally no one is afraid of. $7,800 on DraftKings, $9,200 on FanDuel. I'm just going to say this, Mike, this doesn't feel like a matchup where they're going to ask Jordan Love to throw the ball much, but it does feel like a matchup where they're just going to give the ball to Josh Jacobs.
We're talking a guy who's had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in each of the last 2 games. Meanwhile, the Cardinals have given up at least 1 touchdown to a running back every single game this season. When absolutely pathetic defense meets running back that's crushing it, usually crushes it again. I have him in every single lineup I have as Josh Jacobs this week. I don't care about the price point. I found ways to plug him in.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely worth the $7,800 price tag on DraftKings. Again, volume against a defense that gives up volume to the position. Next up, speaking of volume, Rico Dowdle, the Carolina Panthers, up against the New York Jets this weekend. $6,800 on DraftKings, $7,800 on FanDuel. So my question here, obviously, we think Chuba's coming back this weekend. I'm guessing that you're feeling the same way about this as I do. First, I don't think Chuba's going to get a full workload coming back. And I think that this offense is going to turn into a running back by committee, but in a way that's very beneficial for fantasy managers. Because Dowdle's going to get the rushing volume, Chuba's going to get the passing volume.
And that's fine, right? Probably for both of them. I know Dowdle played against two defenses that we pick on with running backs all the time on the show as well, right? Miami and the Cowboys. So, I put that in perspective on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it for people. I'm like, you have to understand, he killed two easy defenses, but he killed them like no one else has killed them this season.
Right.
I mean, he's going to produce this week. I'm plugging him in, and his price point is not that bad when you consider the production we've seen the past 2 weeks. We're looking at another 100-yard game probably and a touchdown from him again this week. If they flip to Chuba, I would be surprised if it was a complete flip. They're probably going to give him time to get completely healthy as well because they don't need him.
No, when Dowdle's playing this well, you can afford to kind of ease Hubbard back into the offense from that injury, which long term, I still think Dowdle takes over the majority of the carries in this offense. I don't know why you go back to Chuba, who hasn't been nearly as efficient as Dowdle. At least until Dowdle fades, which I just don't know that that's going to happen. He was good in Dallas last year. It's not like we're talking about some second string scrub running back, right?
1,000 yards. I mean, he really got a raw deal this offseason, and I don't know why, but he did.
No. Let's move on to someone who didn't get a raw deal. I mean, maybe he did, getting drafted so late now that we're seeing what he can do. Ja'Cory Bill Krosky Merritt, Washington Commanders playing the Dallas Cowboys. The picking on the Cowboys defense continues, Mike. $6,100 on DraftKings, $6,600 on FanDuel. And as I heard Heath Cummings say yesterday on CBS Sports HQ during their little fantasy segment, he's been so efficient with whatever volume he gets. This doesn't have to be a high volume game for him. He's going to score enough fantasy points to be relevant, at least as a flex. But in your DFS lineups, he's probably a running back you want to roster, especially at this price point. I mean, $6,100 for a guy that could produce RB1 numbers this weekend.
Perfect flex, right? Because of that. Cowboys give up the fourth most fantasy points to opposing teams' running backs. He's the starting running back. I know they kind of have a three-headed running back by committee some games, but he's the most talented guy they have. I still don't know how you get Bill from Ja'Cory. I think I say it all the time. Maybe it's because Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt's such a mouthful. No one wants to say that. But good play this week. Great matchup. Start your Commanders.
Yes. I think we've forgotten how powerful this offense has been in the past and last season with mostly this team. They can get back to it. They need Deebo healthy, but I think this weekend is a start against a bad Cowboys defense. Next up, your hometown boy, Mr. Rhamonder Stephenson, up against the weak Tennessee Titans rush defense. $5,200 on FanDuel, on DraftKings. Good God, Mike. And then $5,700 on FanDuel. I like this play. Again, Rhamonder is not seeing a ton of volume, but when he is seeing volume, most of it's in the red zone. I like him to fall into the end zone at least once, if not twice, against the Titans this weekend, especially against this atrocious run defense.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. You can run on them, right? So his price point's right. He's the guy in the red zone getting the touches. I know a lot of people are touting Henderson this week. If you feel the need to play Henderson over Stevens, be my guest. Again, price point's right for both guys. There is no one else running the ball, just the two of them, other than the quarterback, other than Drake. But Stevenson has a better chance of scoring a touchdown in close, and that's why I had him in here. And at that price point, he'll be in a lot of my lineups, so I can pay up for other people.
Yep. I love the call on Stevenson. Now let's move on to the last one here. This is the most expensive running back on our slate, Mike. Jonathan Taylor up against the Los Angeles Chargers. $8,800 on DraftKings, $10,000 on FanDuel. Heavy expense, but this is a guy who is, I mean, he's balling out. This is a career year for Jonathan Taylor, bordering on what could be a historic year at running back in some categories and some statistical categories. he's a must play every week. And if you can afford to pay up for him by paying down on some of these other guys, it's worth it, especially this weekend.
We'll be able to pay down at wide receiver in a few spots this weekend too, by the way. I'll probably change some lineups because of information coming in and pay down so I can plug him in somewhere. So the last 2 weeks, the Chargers have been completely burned by running backs. They're kind of middle of the pack against the run, but Bill, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, hit them up 2 weeks ago for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Devon Achan, I never know how to pronounce Achan's last name, 128 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. So they're giving it up. And as much as I think those two guys are talented and Achan's super talented, you're talking about the best running back in football right now. We're looking at those kind of numbers, 120-ish yards, 2 touchdown type game. I think having Daniel Jones there and an actual passing offense where people can catch the ball that's thrown to them helps Jonathan Taylor so much. It's not funny, right? Like so much. I like him a lot this week. He's worth the money if you can find a way to pay up.
Well, and the Chargers are really good against wide receivers, especially from a fantasy perspective, but they do have a better time shutting that position down than they do the running game. I think this leans a little bit heavier Taylor this week just because of the matchup, Mike, and I love this play. And again, it's worth paying up, pay down other places. Speaking of paying down other places, Mike, let's move on to the wide receivers for this week 7 slate here. The first one we're going to talk about, and this really is, if he is healthy, Deebo Samuel against the Dallas Cowboys, because it's Deebo Samuel against the Dallas Cowboys. Even if he's hurt, Mike, $6,200 on DraftKings, $7,100 on FanDuel, I still like him very much as a play this week, as long as he's on the field.
Well, and Terry McLaurin has officially been ruled out, finally.
Yep.
While we've been in this stream, by the way, he was ruled out. So Deebo might be doubtful. A guy I'm also playing, by the way, everywhere because his price point is so low, is Luke McCaffrey. He's good for at least 1 deep touchdown this week. I like him a lot. Deebo, if he's really good to go, will be unstoppable against that Dallas defense, just running people over. So, I'm not afraid to play both of those wide receivers now that I know McLaurin's out. Luke McCaffrey's a nice cheap play, by the way, too.
Yep. And again, like we've talked about, against the Cowboys and in a game that's probably going to be high scoring and a bit of a shootout. The next one we've got on here, Mike, Courtland Sutton of the Denver Broncos up against the New York Giants, $5,900 on DraftKings, $7,700 on FanDuel. This feels like a little bit of a steal.
It is
the Giants.
Right? And it's a steal because he's only had 3 targets and 1 reception in his last game. And it seems to be in a really good matchup. He produces really big. One he didn't, and Franklin did instead. But Sutton's the guy for the Broncos. The matchup's really right. The Giants give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing teams' wide receivers, so the matchup's good. He won't be chalky because of recency bias, which is one of the reasons I like him. And the price point's sweet. $5,900 on DraftKings, $7,700 on FanDuel. It's pretty sweet. It's not bad at all.
Yeah, it's a great matchup. Troy Franklin wouldn't be a bad guy to pay down on a little bit this week, too, if you have an inclination. Not on our list, but someone to consider here. Next one, I love to see him up here. Lad McConkey up against the Indianapolis Colts. $6,000 on DraftKings, $7,300 on FanDuel. Our boy flashed last week. Quinton Johnson is still hurt. He's playing more than likely. He's been limited at practice, but I think that limits him in this game. It becomes the McConkey, Keenan Allen show. And in this matchup against Indy, I really like it because I think they are going to need to throw the ball to keep up with this Indy offense.
Especially with their okay running game, right? I know Connie Vidal was good last week. I don't expect great. He has a touchdown each of the last 2 games, right? 12 receptions over that span, 16 targets. He's involved again. Anybody who thought they were going to move completely away from him, I'm sorry, you were mistaken. That's not what was happening. I like Lad. Again, price point's right for a guy that we know is of his stature, right? Like he's a really good wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm in too. We knew it was going to come back around for him. Kind of sucks it took some injuries for it to happen, but I think hopefully he'll continue to be involved in this offense, Mike. Next one up here, the man who is returning, and I'm just going to say it, people are heralding him like he's returning from some major injury. Let's not forget that he was convicted of a felony and served a 6-game suspension. But that said, he's a really good start this week. Rashee Rice of the Kansas City Chiefs making his 2025 debut against the Las Vegas Raiders defense. $5,600 on DraftKings, $7,500 on FanDuel. This is a steal. This is highway robbery. This is not fair.
I'm playing him everywhere. It's not like he's hurt. He's completely healthy. He's just not a great guy. But he's completely healthy. They need him, even though, I mean, Mahomes has been slinging it all over the place, but they still kind of need him. I like the situation a lot, too, as they don't run the ball very well. I think that only helps him in his, catching passes in the flat, etc. Rashee Rice in a great spot at great pricing. $5,600 on DraftKings. That's crazy.
That's not even fair. It's insane. But it's a smash play. I'm going to have Rashee Rice in pretty much all of my lineups this weekend. Now, next one up, Mike. CeeDee Lamb. He's back up against the Commanders. $7,500 on DraftKings. $8,600 on FanDuel. Are you at all nervous about him being back, coming off of the injury? Is he going to be limited? Pickens has been so good.
I am a little, because I was going to say you can pivot to Pickens pretty easily here too, especially at that price point so high for CD. But, I mean, if you're a CD truther, I'm saying plug him in. I have a feeling Dak will throw him the ball more than enough times just because he does. It may hurt Ferguson a little bit more than Pickens, by the way, because of the Washington defense. I think it's going to be easier for them to pick on them with the 2 wide receivers, and I think they will. That's just where I see it headed.
I'm a little more worried about Pickens than you are, I think, if CeeDee Lamb's back, but I'm not. I mean, I'm unlikely to start him unless it's a flex. I'm not going to roll him out as my wide receiver too. But now this last one, this is an interesting one, but it makes sense. Zay Jones of the Arizona Cardinals up against the Green Bay Packers. $3,500 on DraftKings, $5,400 on FanDuel. Look, Jacoby Brissett likes Zay Jones. Jacoby Brissett is a starting quarterback this week. It's pretty simple math, and for this cheap, he's worth a flyer.
I mean, the Packers have also been burned by Jamar Chase, 10 receptions, 94 yards, a TD. George Pickens, 8 receptions, 134 yards, and 2 TDs. These are on deep plays, which is what Zay Jones does. And unlike Kyler Murray, Jacoby Brissett can throw the ball downfield. So it's a space where the two backups have good chemistry from practicing, and they complement each other great.
Well,
sorry about that.
No, you're fine. I mean, he had 8 targets last week. He saw a 79% snap share against Indy. If Brissett likes him, they're just going to roll him out. And Marvin Harrison Jr., oh man, Zay Jones is probably going to be more productive than Marvin Harrison Jr. this week, and it would not shock me, even remotely.
If Marvin Harrison Jr.'s out, because I know he's not cleared yet to play, I'm not sure anyways, Zay Jones is a must start just because of that, especially in DFS.
Yep. No, absolutely. All right, we're done with the wide receivers, Mike, and I do believe it is time to move on to the tight end position. We're going to start here with Mason Taylor, the rookie New York Jet up against the Carolina Panthers this week, Mike. $3,400 on DraftKings, $4,700 on FanDuel. Down week against Denver last week. I suppose that can be expected. They have a really good secondary and a really good defense, but we're back on him this week. I think this is a good matchup. We're up against Carolina. They're terrible.
Garrett Wilson's out.
Garrett Wilson is out.
He's somebody who Justin Fields likes to throw the ball to, again, in good matchups. And Justin Fields in a good matchup really does a good job. In a tough one like against Denver, he's not so good.
Yep.
But it's a good matchup, right? So I think the matchup's right. The price point's right. $4,900 on DraftKings, $6,300 on FanDuel. I'm playing him. I like the matchup. I think he'll get the volume this week.
Yeah, I agree. I really like the matchup a lot. Now, the next one we're going to talk about, Mike, we've got Trey McBride of the Arizona Cardinals. He is up against the Green Bay Packers, $4,700 on DraftKings, $6,700 on FanDuel. Hitting this Arizona offense again against Green Bay is not something you'd think we'd be doing. But again, Trey McBride, well, first of all, Trey McBride's Trey McBride, right? You're never going to really shy away from starting him. But he had 11 targets last week and a touchdown with Jacoby Brissett. We see more of that this week. And even though he's one of the more expensive tight ends on the slate, I think he's worth paying up at this position this week.
39% target share. I mean, good God. If you're going to pay up at tight end, this is the guy who's going to have the volume. They're going to need to throw the ball. So, Zay Jones and Trey McBride are going to be the beneficiaries, it looks like, at least right now. Especially McBride, right?
Right. Well, he's the best receiver on the team.
Oh, God,
he's the wide receiver one, even when Marvin Harrison's healthy. So, yep. Next tight end up, kind of the same situation a little bit here, seeing an uptick in the volume in this offense on the passing game. Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles up against the Minnesota Vikings this weekend, $4,500 on DraftKings. He has $5,900 on FanDuel. 11 targets last week, 9 targets in week 5 against Denver. 26 fantasy points last week because he had 110 yards, 9 catches, and a touchdown. But obviously, Philly's figuring out they have to throw the ball a little bit more. They can't keep up this charade of pretending that they're good. And I'm going to say it's a charade. They're pretending that they're good. Philly fans, come at me. You know my handles on social media. Bring it. But here's the thing. They figured out that what Jalen Hurts can do well is he can throw the ball to Dallas Goedert. He's done it 2 weeks in a row. It's played very well for them. There's no reason they don't keep that up this week, especially against the Vikings, who are probably going to force them to have to throw the ball more.
Excellent price point, too, right? And one of the announcers said evidently the squeaky wheel gets the oil. I don't know if it was Goddard that complained or if it was Hurts that complained, but somebody complained not enough passes are being thrown in the offense, and Goddard's got an uptick afterwards, which is good. A.J. Brown, are you listening to this? Are you listening, A.J. Brown?
Could we please get some A.J. Brown volume at some point? Well, I mean, he's getting volume. It's not the volume that's the problem. It's the quality of the volume that he's getting that's the problem. Now, we're talking about Darren Waller again, Mike, and I just don't know how I feel about it. I was soured on him after that weird rap video to try and apologize to Kelsey Plum or whatever the hell that was. But Darren Waller up against the Browns this weekend, $4,200 on DraftKings, $6,000 on FanDuel. But really, seriously, like it or not, Darren Waller's a part of this offense, Mike.
Darren touchdown Waller. I mean, in the red zone, he's the guy, right? If they're within the 10-yard line, he's who I expect to see the pass being thrown to. Price point, again, not bad. $4,200, $6,000 on FanDuel, $4,200 on DraftKings. I don't love the Dolphins this week. I don't like Tua at all. But I like Darren Waller because I think he can catch a touchdown.
Yep. God forbid you give the ball to your elite running back inside the 10. Why would a team do that? No. Throw it to the old washed up tight end. But he's got 4 touchdowns in 3 games. I mean, that's pretty damn good. So I think solid start, good price point at $4,200. I don't hate this at all.
His coach is an offensive genius. We can't question him.
He looks like a cocaine kingpin, but oh well. Let's move on to the next one. We've got Mike Tucker Kraft, Green Bay Packers up against the Arizona Cardinals, $4,900 on DraftKings, $6,300 on FanDuel. He's my tight end 3 in my weekly rankings. Anytime Tucker Kraft is healthy, he is the wide receiver 1 in Green Bay. This is a no-brainer.
Arizona also does not defend the position well. Nope. So on those 2 things combined, stars aligned type of deal, right? So I have Tucker Kraft going in the league I run as my tight end all season long. I'm a big fan. Price points right in DFS too. Yep. It's not bad if you want to play Tucker Kraft. I'm probably paying down here because I want some high end running backs, but I like him.
Yeah, I like him too. The $4,900 draft tag doesn't the salary doesn't scare me off too much. But this last one is probably more of the direction I'm going to go this week at tight end, Mike. Harold Fannin up against the Dolphins. Again, bad weather game. They're probably going to run the ball a lot. $3,900 on DraftKings, $5,500 on FanDuel. If they do throw the ball, when they do throw the ball, it's going to be to Fannin. It's going to be to Njoku if he plays.
And the volume, right? I mean, he had 11 targets last week. Gabriel's a rookie quarterback. I know all the nonsense, blah, blah, blah. They always target their tight ends. The wide receivers aren't so good on the Browns. The two tight ends are, so they're going to get the targets. We may have mentioned this early in the season when people kind of soured on Fannin after adding him week 1. Like, he's really talented. Like, I'm not sure people understand. He may be the best receiver on the team. And I like David Njoku as an athletic freak.
A lot.
Fannin might be better. He's very good. You're going to see a volume game from him this week. Volume's king.
Yeah. I liked Fannin at the Senior Bowl. I'm tired of talking about it. Nobody listened to me then. They started listening to me towards the beginning of the season. Everything made sense to me that Fannin was going to be the guy to take over the volume because these wide receivers aren't good. And he fits as more of like a slot receiver than a tight end so much, which plays perfect with David Njoku. I mean, Njoku had 6 targets last week before he got hurt. So they can both survive in this offense, and it's trending. Njoku hasn't practiced all week. So there's probably no David Njoku, which then you can bank on double-digit targets for Fannin. He had 10 last week. He could have 15. He's not going to get Jamar Chase's 23. I mean, that would be really nice, but it's probably not going to happen. We can hope, though, right? We'll pretend maybe.
I can hope.
Yep. All right, Mike, let's move on to the defenses on this slate because you can't set a lineup without a defense. And the first one we're going to go after is the Miami Dolphins defense up against the Cleveland Browns. I highlighted them as a streaming defense of the week in our waiver wire article.
Nice.
I know it's weird to go after the Dolphins defense, but you've got a rookie quarterback in a crap weather matchup, and they don't have to be good. Things happen in these games. Turnovers happen in these games. Sloppy football happens in these games. No interest in the quarterbacks, but some of the position players in this defense I am in on.
So the Dolphins defense is not what I would call a good defense. All right? I wouldn't.
No.
But the Browns give up the 4th most fantasy points opposing teams' defenses. And what the Dolphins have done with teams that give up fantasy points to defense is scored 7, 8, and 9 fantasy points against them. And we often talk about we're trying to get to like that 8-point threshold with a defense, and we'll feel good about it, right? I think they can get you there this week. That's where I think we're at. I don't trust Gabriel to not turn the ball over. And, they're pro athletes. They produce, even if they're not the best defense, when they have the chance to produce against guys who stink, they do.
Yep. And dude, they're still better defense than I am. I mean, that's for sure. All right, let's get to this next one here. We've kind of talked about this a little bit. The Patriots defense up against the Titans, $3,600 on DraftKings, $5,000 on FanDuel. And as you highlighted in the show sheet, Tennessee gives up the most points to fantasy defenses.
They did it. They passed the Bengals. They did it. Congratulations, Titans. You did it. I think we talked about that last week. Like, they're trying so hard to give up the most fantasy points to defenses. You did it.
Did it.
Defenses average 12.33 fantasy points against the Titans. The Patriots defense is actually really good. They've just played a bunch of really good offenses so far this season. They're 3,600 and on DraftKings, 5,000 on FanDuel. They're priced a little high, I guess, but I like them to produce this week a lot in a really good matchup for them.
Well, I think that's probably the price is indicative of that. But again, it's a good defense to play. The last one we're going to talk about, Mike, the Kansas City Chiefs up against the Las Vegas Raiders, $3,700 on DraftKings, $4,500 on FanDuel, giving up the 3rd most points to fantasy defenses.
This is about Geno more than it is about the Chiefs defense. I don't think the Chiefs defense is that great this year, by the way. I do have them going in DFS because the price point, right? But the Raiders give up 3 sacks and 2 interceptions per game. right? And I think you're going to see that similar numbers to that this week with the Chiefs defense. Again, they're not that good, but they're playing a team that's really bad.
Well, Gino's been atrocious. And like you said, you can guarantee he's going to at least throw one interception, if not two. You're going to sack him a handful of times. This defense might get a few more. Yes, this defense isn't good, but they do get pressure.
Yeah.
And if Gino gets so rattled under pressure, I could see 4 or 5 sacks in this game because Gino starts to kind of, I don't know, shufflefoot around. He does what Michael Penix
runs
does.
Around like if it was me in the pocket and 300-pound guys were chasing me, I would run just like that.
I'd be terrified, but I couldn't. That's why we don't play in the NFL, Mike. That's why we talk about it. And we want to thank you for joining us to do just that today. Those are our best picks for this DFS slate. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. Hopefully you go out there and win week 7. If you need some help setting those lineups, though, head over to tools.optimusfantasy.com. 25% off your first 4 months with code OptimusFall. And we've got a new DFS optimizer tool for you to check out this weekend. Test it out, see how it does with those lineups. I know I will be, and I know Mike will be as well. All right, folks, we're going to get out of here. Mike, thank you so much for joining me on this wonderful Friday evening, Friday afternoon, whatever the hell it is on a Friday. Folks, we'll see you next week.